person that I plan to commemorate this evening, I want him to be placed in the halls of history because he has led by example. He has truly celebrated diversity. He has empowered his employees, and throughout everything, he's made an impact in every single person that he's met in his life. He's a leader that should be exemplified. And the reason that Michael G. Scott should be exemplified is that he burst into stardom with the famous television show Fundle Bundle as a child when he was breaking the hearts of viewers. After this fantastic show, he wrote his own book, How I Manage. And this book inspired leaders for years to come, but this book was only the start of his business influence. You see, he also ended up teaching several different business seminars at schools, even though he actually had no formal business training himself. Michael G. Scott. This shows the caliber of the man and the marks of a great leader because they empower the people of their life. And Michael G. Scott was subpar to none in the way that he empowered people through diverse motivation. The marks of a great leader are amazing things, and Michael G. Scott was one of the most humble men of our generation, never missing an opportunity to make sure that he showed that he was one of the guys, such as in the famous Dunder Mifflin warehouse to office basketball game. We had a special gambling night and silent auction that he ended up putting on because Michael G. Scott was filled with compassion. He couldn't help himself but reach out with a helping hand to anybody and everyone, usually taking a personal loss from his actions, such as in the Casino Royale fundraiser that I mentioned earlier. As much as this man was not silent, he was a very loud person, much like I am. He motivated people to raise immense amounts of funds to supply for the workers of his office after a robbery and several items were stolen. Now, Michael didn't know when to hit the brakes when it came to compassion, and he sped ahead in every single way into all methods of social awareness, mostly famously known for the Michael Scott's Dunder Mifflin Scranton Meredith Palmer Memorial Celebrity Rabies Awareness Pro-Am Fun Run Race for the Cure. Now, Michael Scott empowered his workers to celebrate their diversity in everyday life situations. As a manager, he made sure that every single ethical and difficult situation that he came up with, that his workers were knowledgeable and responsible. Now, he did this through several examples, one of them being Michael Klump, making sure that his workers understood that you are beautiful no matter what weight you are. He did this through Prison Mike by going through and helping them to understand that work conditions could always be worse. Through his character as Michael Scarn, he helped empower his workers to realize that they could live a life of fantasy and intrigue no matter where they are and what job they're in. And lastly, and I think most importantly, through Date Mike, he showed that confidence is key to living a successful life. Now, Michael Scott had life goals. These life goals were to educate, to build up the next generation, especially his children. And Michael Scott, he wanted money, but it wasn't so that he could be wealthy, but it was so that he could end up blessing others and building them up and empowering them to change the world. Scott's Tots is a fantastic example of this. And in this scenario, Michael G. Scott ended up taking a group of elementary schoolers and promising them the ability that if they graduated high school, he would pay for their college tuition. Now, while this is a lofty goal, Michael ended up making it to where these students ended up graduating at a much higher rate than the classes around them, giving these students the ability to be able to succeed. Michael Gary Scott led by example. He celebrated diversity, and he empowered his employees. Throughout everything, he invested in everyone with his life. In the famous words of Michael Scott, that's what she said.